Kia ora, hello. Well, high pressure is pretty much the driving force behind the weather as we head through the second half of this week, which pretty much translates as a dry story for most of us. There'll still be areas of cloud to watch out for, but you can see the high pressure firmly in place as we head through the rest of Wednesday afternoon, and it stays close by even through to Wednesday, into Thursday and Friday as well. Now we have still got a little bit more activity up towards the north. You can just about see the next area of low pressure running towards New Caledonia. That's going to get closer towards us by the time we head in towards Sunday. But for Thursday and Friday, high pressure is firmly in control, sitting pretty much across New Zealand, keeping most of us dry. There'll be an odd shower perhaps bringing up through parts of Waikato through the afternoon, nudging in towards those southern parts of the Auckland region, but the bulk of the country stays dry and fine beneath the high on Thursday. And for Friday, well, there's no great change to how things are set up. You can see the high pressure sits here, our winds going in an anti-clockwise fashion around that. There are features to the south and up towards the north, but the high acts as a big block, keeping things relatively dry and settled through Valentine's Day as well for Friday. On in towards the weekend, we start to find the presence of those features in the north, just edging closer towards us. You can see there's that circulation up through there. Brings in more of those northeasterly winds towards parts of Northland and up in towards Auckland as well. So we're starting to find some of that warmer air coming back towards us as well. But in terms of rainfall, it's a dry looking Saturday, so not a bad looking story in that sense. As we head through towards Sunday, we'll find this next area of low pressure runs closer towards us. Could be bringing as well a little bit more in the way of active weather towards those northern areas. So places like north, and particularly those eastern facing coasts, the Coromandel catching some of that wet weather through there. But this high pressure, I think, will keep most of the country dry through Sunday. But more cloud arriving in the north as we head towards the end of the day. Also some of that showery weather just pushing it through as well. The next lot of rainfall, I think, will also be this next feature out towards the west, which runs in perhaps Monday, Tuesday from the west and cuts across the country. The low pressure will also bring some more blustery conditions, so around those areas, those northeasterlies with us, keeping more cloud through places like the Bay of Plenty and up in towards those northern parts of Tairāwhiti, but also help to generate a fair bit of swell. So worth keeping a close eye on that as well for those coastal locations as we head through the weekend and the start of next week. But one thing we will notice though, this week is pretty dry, and I think that's a fair story as we go across the country. There's not an awful lot in terms of rainfall at all. If we look at the accumulation charts right the way through towards Saturday night time, for the North Island it's pretty sparse. What we'll see here is perhaps the return of that wet weather arriving from the north. You can imagine that those northeasterly winds, places like the Coromandel, those eastern parts of the North Island, perhaps catching that rainfall there. Just a few showers up in the far northern parts of Northland as we go through Wednesday afternoon, but really it's a very dry story, and that's a continuation of pretty dry weather we've had through January and February for many spots. Unsurprisingly, with the high pressure over us, the South Island is looking like a very similar story. There's some showers perhaps about the higher parts of the Southern Alps, but really we're really scraping the barrel to find any real rainfall to talk about. It is a very dry looking week, and that's really borne out if we look at the week in terms of its anomaly for the time of year. We're looking for those orange colours being drier than normal and the greens showing anything wetter than normal, but across the country a very dry signal as we head through this week, unsurprising with that high pressure over us. Now that has got an impact on our rainfall amounts, but also it will add to the impacts we're currently seeing in our soil moisture. So how much rain is there available for crops to grow? If we look at the soil moisture deficit, again, we're looking for those areas in orange showing less than we'd like to see in the water table, and those areas in green showing areas which are already have already got plenty of rainfall and well saturated. Very sparse in terms of rainfall. It's been an incredibly dry story through places like Waikato and Taranaki. The eastern coast, unfortunately, you've had the cloudier skies and the wetter weather, but plenty of dry weather out towards the west. What we have seen this week, thunderstorms, which have given locally some pretty intense bursts of rainfall. Taramanui out on, say, Tuesday, got as much as 24 millimetres of rainfall there. But really, it's a very dry looking week as we go through this week, and it's just building on what we're already seeing. If we take a look at our temperatures this week, you'll also notice it's pretty warm too. We'll find those temperatures really increasing as we head through into the weekend through central Otago particularly, but generally warmer air over the top of us as we head through the week. As those features start to push closer in from the north towards the end of the week, we'll start to find that warmer air coming back towards us. Quite high humidity as well. So for places like Northland, Auckland, the Bay of Plenty, we see that warmer air coming in by the time we head in towards Sunday. You can see those dark oranges and reds through there, bringing closer weather towards us. This cold air mass here, that's a bit of a concern, I think, for that next feature that runs through. The cold air in those upper parts of the atmosphere happens to generate some pretty beefy showers, so that's something to watch out for a bit later on. In terms of how our temperatures compare to normal, well, if we take a look at the week as a whole, you can see things are pretty warm across those southern parts of the country. Anytime my students will catch up with me, there we are. No, not quite. We are looking at, there we are, some much warmer temperatures down across those southern areas, particularly in those spots through central Otago. Now, it's not unusual to get those high temperatures through here. It's been a while since we've seen 32s and 33s, places like Alexandra and Wanaka, but some pretty high temperatures through there. Cooler than normal up across parts of Hawke's Bay and Tairati, more cloud. And I think with the wind still being a bit more easterly, you don't get the advantage of that firn effect. So your temperatures still up to around about 22, 23 or so there for Napier, but not really the highs you normally see for this time of year. Elsewhere on the North Island, you can see there's plenty of dry weather in store. We might catch an odd shower perhaps as we head towards Saturday on down towards New Plymouth. And I think for Sunday, we're more likely to see some wetter weather pushing in towards those northern parts of the country. More so for places like Whangarei, up in towards those eastern parts of Northland, in towards parts of Coromandel, Whitianga and Tauranga, out towards the Bay of Plenty. But I think we are going to find generally cloudy conditions for Sunday, particularly on the eastern coast and back with those easterly winds through there. Down south, places like Palmerston North, these northeasterly winds are really good wind direction for you to stay dry, but also warm. Places like Whanganui as well are also going to be pretty high over the next few days, 28s, 27s through there. Down on the South Island, well, I think for most of the weekend we find it stays dry. And I think some pretty clear skies as well. High temperatures down back through central Otago, back to about 31 degrees Celsius or so. But you'll notice even around parts of Canterbury and down towards Southland, highs of 27, 28. So high temperatures through there. And generally that dry story, I think, pretty much across the island. You might catch an odd shower up about the higher ground, but most of us, I think, will find it stays dry through the outlook. Looking ahead, beyond that, in towards next week, you can see the high pressure is shifting away, those orange colours. In its place, these more active areas of low pressures. This is the next feature I think is going to be the real issue as that low crosses us on Tuesday and Wednesday. Remember that cold air we saw aloft? Could be enough to help really spark off some fairly hefty showers. It runs through fairly quickly, but I think it is going to be a bit of an unsettled, a bit more of an unsettled story for the start of next week as that feature runs through. You can see though this next area of high pressure over Tasmania, just reaching out across those northern parts of the country. And I think beyond that, we're likely to find the high pressure building back towards us. But for next week, I think really we're looking at a little bit of a wetter signal compared to what we've seen this week, particularly across those western areas. But we'll keep hold of that warmer signal. So again, we're looking at our temperature anomaly. So compared to what we normally see for the time of year, those red colours are showing things warmer than normal. And that's a pretty clear signal across the country. So temperatures are picking up, but in terms of our precipitation, our rainfall anomaly, I think we are looking at things being wetter than we'll see this week when we lose that high pressure and we start to find more of that westerly wind back with us. So more rainfall back towards those western areas. And I think there's just that risk of perhaps one or two sharper ones as we go through perhaps Tuesday, Wednesday, depending on the timing of that front. So it's still looking like a dry week this week, dry through towards Saturday, perhaps for most of the country on Sunday as well. The next feature moves in from the north, brings those cloudy conditions, that warm, muggy air across the far northern parts of New Zealand. But our next very active feature, I think, runs in from the Tasman Sea and has the potential to bring some more wet weather back into the west. Perhaps even places like Tasman, one to watch out for you, and those northeasterly winds bringing some rainfall towards the Bay of Plenty as well. That's it from me. There's more at metservice.com.